Welcome you all back to the second class. So, in the first class, I gave you a brief overview of the structure of the course, and I exposed you to the different biogeographic zones of India and the global picture, how deforestation and different kind of other human interventions are affecting our water biodiversity, diversity of the forest, and how we are losing on the agricultural land. And thereafter, I gave an outline of the course what we will be dealing with, and I stopped with this slide where I said the Indian biosecurity measures are outdated, letting invasive species to thrive. And I told you that I will start with this concept of invasive species. So, this is the word which is of key significance what we are going to talk about, what we really meant by, and I give you some idea about what invasive species are. Now, here is a slide. Those of you who are non-vegetarian or eat fishes must have seen these kind of fishes in the market. These are catfish, African catfish. Catfish is a common fish. It is found across the world in every continent, every place. But every continent or every biogeographic zone have different species of catfish, and they may not be similar to another biogeographic zone. They all belong to the same family, but they have adapted in different parts of the world differently. So, these African catfish, which are frequently escape, as you could see, a regulated aquaculture farm and enter the water bodies. Interestingly, there was a study which was conducted in CCMB, Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology, Hyderabad, and the story is pretty interesting. The story of African catfish, Clarias garapanus from Hyderabad, India. Okay. So, this study was conducted by biologist Govindswamy Umapathy. So, what he figured out is very interesting. When molecular biologist Govindswamy Umapathy and his team started looking for traces of variety of invasive catfishes in 12 lakes in and around Hyderabad, what they found out is this. Found that the environmental DNA of the African sharp-toothed catfish, even in places where it wasn't known to have invaded, like a pond inside a city zoo. Now, how this particular catfish got into Indian biogeographic zone? It was never part of Indian biogeographic zones. So, here in the red, if you look at it, the African catfish, what I have highlighted, was introduced in East India from Bangladesh in the early 1990s as a food source. So, if you remember, in the first class, I was telling you something. It is the need of food, it is the desire of human to have certain foods. There is a lack of fishes, so you introduce fishes from another place. Another place could be as distant as another country, without realizing that new fish may have better potential to survive in your new environment, and it may outsmart the existing population. That is exactly what happened when it was introduced. Obviously, the businessmen were very happy, the people who are doing fish business, because here they have a new fish which grows faster, it has more meat, people are liking it, it started ruling the market. But here is the catch. These new fishes are hardy fishes, thrives in polluted water, feed on native fishes. This is important for you to understand. They feed on native fishes, however, they continue to be reared clandestinely across the country because of their low cost meat. These fish frequently escape the upregulated aquaculture farm and enter water bodies. Interestingly, its breeding and import are now banned. But now think of a situation if it has been introduced into a new biogeographic zone where it is far more successful and it started killing the existing fishes, it eats the existing fishes, is survive in very dirty water. It means what it is eating is contains lot of pollutants in its body. So think of it, a fish which you are buying is coming from a polluted water, you are eating the fish, so obviously those pollutants are coming into your system. So in a way your health is getting affected from a fish which is not part of your biogeographic zone. And not only that, that new fish is eating away the fishes of your own region. Now you realize a small step without putting proper thought process into it, just for the sake of solving a problem in a short term basis, led to a ecological disaster. These are the beginning of disasters. So when I told you, gave the example that you like some flower in another country, you bring the seeds into your country, you didn't even realize that that could cause some serious problem. A very similar problem happened when India had to import wheat from United States back in 1960s and 70s. During that time, along with the wheat, there were some of these wheat seeds which entered. Now, those wheat, especially the Congress grass Parthenium, they are so aggressive that if you travel across North India, you will see Parthenium all over the place. They call it a Congress grass. Now, whenever such weeds gets into a newer environment, it has been observed, they outsmart the other weeds or the beneficial crops. So after this example, it was pointed out by the authorities that we really need some better laws, and that's why this whole thing was there. India's biosecurity measures are outdated, letting invasive species to thrive. And in this case, it was a case study showing the fish. Next, you must have seen these kind of flowers in several places. These are called Siam weeds. It is one of the 10 most widespread invasive species worldwide. They are beautiful, nice looking flowers, but you have no idea these flowers invade, and this is called invasion, where you completely outsmart the existing herbs and shrubs of that local region. There are dispersal of seeds which happen through birds and other organisms and even animals, but those are natural ones, and every biogeographic zone has certain potential to withstand such alien species coming from other places, but those are in check and balances of nature's own armory. But when these are being introduced in mass scale, then the existing biological component goes for a imbalance. The balance, which is the harmony between each one of these components, goes to the back foot, because your resource is limited. You cannot generate resources, it's finite. So if there is a new entity, it's, say for example, it's a room for 4 people, you push 5 people, it makes 9 people, but the room has finite amount of, say, oxygen. So obviously there will be some problem. It is exactly like that. When you introduce the newer species which have invasion power, they divide faster, they will outsmart the existing population. From here I go to another example. which is again from India. And this is one of the flower which all of you must have seen. This particular flower is very similar to the sunflower. It's called golden crown beard. It belongs to the Asteraceae family, and its botanical name is Verbacina enceloides. So, it is a native of southwestern United States, okay, and Mexican plateau, and it is emerging as a troublesome invasive weed species in the northwestern states of India. Specifically, we are talking about Punjab, Haryana, and all these places. This is fairly common. Now, if you look at the global spread, now it is from somewhere here, right? Look at how it has spread all the way Alaska, all across United States. It has traveled up to the tip of Latin America. It has crossed the Atlantic all the way Greenland, England. Then there is a discontinuity. Now, this part Egypt, moving to Saudi Arabia, then South Africa, India, Australia. This is the kind of spread. Now, either this has spread, it is by birds or by animals or by human or by movement of the grains, because we import and export grains from one country to another. But think of it, if this is the kind of spread region we are talking about, what are the invasive power of such species? And currently, if you look at it, this is a study I am quoting from Professor Daisy Rani Batish from Punjab University. This is a very interesting study. What she found out is, in Punjab drylands, climate change induced aridification. So, when we talk about the aridification, we are talking about all those arid regions where rainfall is lesser, but it is irregular. Dryland agriculture is, you have, say for example, I say you will have 20 millimeter of rainfall, whether it is uniformly distributed or it is non-uniformly distributed. Mostly the dryland situations are like this, whereas they are non-uniformly distributed. One day this will be 10, the other day maybe 1, the other day 0.5, some of the days it will be blank, likewise. It is a very uneven distribution of rainfall. So, in Punjab drylands, climate change has induced a huge amount of aridification. It means there is a shortage of water and precipitation, and made it easier for drought tolerant wheat. This is important. The wheat which could grow in extremely low water, and Verbacina is one such wheat, and it competitively excludes its neighboring plant by this concept, which we will be talking soon, allelopathic interference, and support the novel weapon hypothesis. So, there are two key words here, allelopathic interference and novel weapon hypothesis. I will talk about both these words because they are very critical in terms of development of bioherbicides and understanding how invasion of species from one region to another region happens. What are those I say evolutionary perspective, how such invasion have taken place and how it is taking place almost every day. So, moving on to the next slide, if you look at what is the impact this particular weed has, look at the crops where it has impacted the production. Groundnut for the oil seeds, oil, brassica again a oil seed crop, chickpea protein, melon, lentil for protein, rice, pearl millet, radish, sorghum, wheat, maize. Pretty much if you look at it, all the crops are being severely affected by the presence of this particular wheat, and this has brought down the productivity of most of these crops which are used by human for food and other purpose. Now, I told you there are two words which are important for us to understand: allelopathy and allelopathic interference. In a simple language, if you try to understand allelopathy, it is, say for example, this is one plant and this is another plant, right? Now, say for example, this is a wheat plant and this is a crop plant, fine. Now, this wheat plant secretes something which affects the growth of this plant adversely. In other words, it secretes certain agent which reduces the growth of this plant, or it does secrete something from its root which influences the growth of this crop plant. In the most simple term, this is what we meant by allelopathy, and the interference is how it interferes into the growth of it. Now, if we look at the slide with this basic understanding, so there are two things. You have the allelopathic donor plant, the one which is giving out the allelopathic agent, and there is a allelopathic receiver plant, okay, which one is receiving the effect. And this could happen either from the roots, they are secreting something, or from their leaves, the volatiles are moving because of incoming solar radiation, or from the leaves, the rainfall leaches fall on them and it leaches onto the soil, and from the soil it is being absorbed by its receiver plant. Now, this could lead to inhibited growth, or sometime it may even lead to enhanced growth, may possible, okay. And these are being further influenced by the different biotic and abiotic factor. In terms of abiotic factor, we are talking about temperature, precipitation, solar radiation, salinity of the soil, humidity, soil type and nutrient, and agricultural practices including pesticide and herbicides. Okay. These are the abiotic factors which are, and in terms of the biotic factors are invasive organisms like insect, pathogen, competitors, rhizosphere organisms, organisms which are in the zone, and the plant factor includes plant density, growth stage, fitness, genotype. So, this allelopathy is known since ancient times and is a natural phenomenon in which different organisms affect the functioning of other organisms in their vicinity negatively or positively by releasing secondary metabolites. And allelopathy has been proposed as an efficient mechanism of invasion by plant species via growth inhibition and suppression of the resident plant community. So, you realize when you are introducing something into a community that may have a negative or a positive effect. So, unless you have a thorough understanding about its nature, how it is going to influence the next plant, what kind of chemical communication. So, this is kind of a chemical communication or between plants and the surrounding, or this falls under another subject which is called chemical ecology. So, if you are unaware about the chemical ecology or the chemical interaction of the plant with the insect, with the microbes, with the other plants, it is extremely challenging to predict what will happen if you introduce an alien species. So far, we have realized much of these alien species have affected the existing population in an adverse manner. So, this is where comes the whole concept of quarantine. So, if you go through the airports, you will see they will say, are you carrying some plant material? You have to either they will confiscate that from you or you cannot carry. Similarly, when you are transporting animals from one country to another, even if it is your pet animal, it has to go through the quarantine. Similarly, during COVID, we realized that all of you must have seen that it is a human quarantine. Have you taken the vaccine? Otherwise, you are not allowed to enter. So, this whole concept of quarantine was introduced officially during the last century, that if you are introducing something from one place to another, it has to go through the specifically, which is a biological material. So, seeds, plant material, microbes, organisms, fishes, animals, so on and so forth. So, unless it has been cataloged and databased, it could have a very detrimental effect, as we have seen with 3 case studies so far. One, I took the case study of African catfish, which has invaded the Indian river systems, and how it has influenced the human health, as I told you, and how it continuously destroying the native fish population. Second, I talk about the 2 different kind of weeds, and especially the one which has invaded Verbania, which has invaded the northern part of India, and it has affected all the crops. And there are several such invading weeds which are existing and which are pulling down the productivity of crop plants. And many of these, and we are slowly now trying to understand, are they native of this particular biogeographic zone or they are coming from outside. So, these are some of the very basic where we are slowly realizing we need a lot of surveillance, lot of understanding, and most importantly, we need a lot of biosensing. So, this was the among the 2 words I told you. This is what we meant by allelopathic interference. The next one is the novel weapon hypothesis. And before we get into that, what are the different kind of allelochemicals? Allelochemicals have been divided into 14 categories if you look at them. They are either the butyric acid. So, basically these are organic acid and these are simple water soluble. They all love water. Parasorbic acid, simple unsaturated lactones. They belong to polyacetylenes, zoglones or quinones, benzoic acids, camphor, these are volatiles, tannic acids, flavonoids. Flavonoids are being used as antioxidant by plants, coumarins, cinnamic acids, arginine or peptides, alkaloids, glucosinolates, and I have put a box here already because we will discussing about that is the guanine or the purine nucleosides. So, these kind of classification is of extreme importance in order to develop a library of what kind of allelochemicals are being secreted by one plant, which could influence the growth positively or negatively, because this is the basis of have a economic design of bioherbicide or growth promoter. Second. So, as you could see, we are now breaking up the problem in terms of chemicals, and that is where we are going to go, that we have to understand what are those basic chemicals, because if you understand the chemicals, then you can develop a biosensor. So, I am going slowly, and I will be closing the second class to give you a flair that how a bigger problem can now be narrowed down to at the level of DNA, at the level of RNA, at the level of protein, at the level of chemicals. And once we know this, then you can develop a biosensor in a far better manner. So, with this, I will close this second class, and in the next class, we will continue with novel weapon hypothesis, and we will move on to other different case studies. Thank you.